Hi, and thank you for giving us a listen today. This is Parenting on Empty, podcast number 27. So we're talking about traditions, the value of traditions, the importance of traditions. I was talking to your sister a while back. She was visiting for a while, and I was asking her about traditions and the family traditions that your family had when you were young, growing up as a child. And one of the traditions she mentioned was that it was a regular thing, I think it was on a Sunday, to have crackers and milk. You guys...
Every night. Sunday night.
Every Sunday night. Okay, you'd have crackers and milk. I didn't know that. And obviously that's the reason I think you enjoy eating crackers and milk.
And I have passed on the tradition.
And you have. I still can't imagine somebody... eating saltine crackers with milk, but
this is crushed up in milk.
Crushed up in milk.
Yes. Or graham crackers crushed up in milk.
Well, that will work. I can see that, but...
saltines are great.
Yeah. I'm going to have to take your word for that.
Yeah.
But that's a family tradition. Eating different kinds of foods or different kind of activities. And so I thought we could talk about that. And... is that important?
Yeah. You know, our oldest daughter finds traditions very important. And since she basically started talking, if we do something once, she basically says, oh, that's a tradition. We need to keep doing that every year. And she remembers what we've done. And usually it's connected to seasons or to special events.
Right.
And once it's happened, she pretty much thinks we need to keep going with that now.
I think she uses that as a way to ensure that that activity will continue and that we'll do that on a yearly basis. She'll say, because it's a tradition. We have to do it. It's a tradition. So it's a way of, I think, providing some kind of leverage for her. So to ensure that that activity will happen again. And she doesn't have a great deal of authority to say, it's an edict, I have signed it, and it will take place. So she uses the leverage of, it's a family tradition. We have to do it. It's tradition. And I think to a large part, that's a good philosophy. And I think for me, that's one of the reasons that traditions are important, because it helps you to... cherish things, and maybe sometimes it is the difference between doing something or not doing it. Sometimes you might not feel like getting all bundled up and going to see the Christmas lights because it might be rainy or whatnot and cold. Mm-hmm. But because it's a tradition...
Hard word for you to say, isn't it?
It is.
A
tradition. Yes.
That's just tea you're drinking, right?
Well, yes. And traditionally,
yes.
I drink tea while we do the podcast.
Which actually is one of our traditions.
Yes.
We have some food and drink traditions every Christmas. I make homemade eggnog and homemade wassail. It's just a fruit wassail, fruit juices and tea. And we give it to the kids, and they absolutely love it and feel like it isn't Christmas until that happens.
Right. I don't think I could drink wassail in the springtime because I think when something's wrong here, it's not cold enough.
Waiting for sleigh bells to ring.
Yeah, exactly. It does have an association with the holidays.
Yeah. I think part of why she says it's a tradition is so that it will happen again, yes. But I think the other part is that it provides some stability. And that's a good thing about traditions, I think. That especially our life seems to be in such a state of flux all the time. We don't really have much of a schedule. We have some, because I have a work schedule. Your work schedule is not consistent at all because you go out on jobs and they're any day, any time,
right,
any place. Mine's a little more structured, and obviously school is structured. But as far as our days and our months and our years, we kind of just take it a day at a time and see, well, we may be able to do this, we may not. And I know, especially for Mariah, that's difficult. She likes to know ahead of time everything that's going to happen. Michaela, the same way, though.
Right.
They both are pretty structured individuals. And I think what traditions do for them is they give them sort of a knob to hold on to. Mm-hmm. And they hang on that until the next tradition comes up. It's hard when a tradition is broken because, especially for the kids, it is a significant thing. And it's a milestone. It's kind of how they measure their year often.
Right.
And I need to remember that they're very different than I am. And so this tradition that maybe to me it's kind of, well, we've done it so many years in a row. It isn't terribly meaningful. I would like to try something new. That for them, that kind of throws their world into a little bit of a turmoil.
Right.
And that it's actually me respecting them and their needs to say, well, we will go out of our way to make sure this tradition happens. So we have sparkling cider, and I think we have eggnog too, again, on New Year's. And there's a certain movie that we watch on New Year's Eve together. And there are certain times of year that we always go to the beach and spend family time together. You started to establish a tradition of daddy-daughter dates.
Right, yeah.
And probably the problem with that is we've been fairly inconsistent. It's just kind of whenever you can make it happen and the stars align.
Yeah, but it's one of the advantages of tradition also is that it does help perpetuate events. Like that's a good example, those daddy-daughter dates. So I say, let's do this. Let's make this a tradition. And if I forget or get distracted because of my schedule, I notice that Michaela, our youngest, she'll remind me.
Yeah.
Hey, it's
time.
It's time for a daddy-daughter date. And
yeah.
and I say, you bet it is. Yeah, let's get that on the calendar. So she helps to perpetuate those important events in life. So that makes it a really good thing. It's like it's a public declaration of a family declaration. Here, this is a tradition. These are things that are important to us.
And you know what it also establishes, which is really interesting. I didn't anticipate this, but with teenagers, because they are separating from the parents and beginning to look outward instead of inward toward the family, outward away from the family. It is a little more difficult to do things with our teenage daughter.
Yes.
Because we're in competition with all of her friends and all of the really interesting things that her youth group does, that kind of stuff. But because you have established this tradition quite a while ago, and I also have mommy-daughter dates occasionally, not as much, but occasionally, that when we suggest something like that, and we say, well, it's going to be this, there isn't let me think about it. It's, because she knows we do this.
It's an important thing.
Part of what we do.
Right.
And so it's like that battle's already been fought.
Yes.
And whether she is excited about going or not, she goes because this is what we do.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And she always has a good time. But I think that it establishes kind of a precedent. So you don't have to be recreating events all the time and saying, hey, could you go with me? We're going to go do this. What do you think? And she has to think about it. Well, I don't know. I was kind of thinking of going with my friends somewhere.
Right.
As soon as you couch it as this is what it is, then it's okay. Well,
right.
That's what we do. So I'll do it. So I think that's highly beneficial.
I do too. And I think, for me personally, I would like to have more traditions like that. Like a family game night every, once a week, or, just even outings. Back in the 60s, families would just hop in the car and go driving.
Sunday afternoons,
Go
for a drive.
Yeah, hop in the station wagon and go driving someplace. I don't even think it mattered where you went, but you were together as a family. And it's very easy to be isolated and doing your own thing. And I was just thinking about that a few days ago, that it's very easy for us to do that, to just be doing our own thing. We have our own little schedules. And as you had mentioned, with a daughter, a teenage daughter now, she's got a core of friends, and they do things. And even Michaela, our youngest, has friends that she wants to see regularly, and so she is not doing as much of her own thing. But it can be very very easy to get into a pattern where you're not doing anything together as a family. You're just doing a whole lot of separate stuff, just living under the same roof. And I think the important thing about traditions is that it does bring the family together. We're going to go on this family outing, this family vacation, or this, family drive. Whether it's what we try to do is see the zoo lights in town north of us.
It's a Christmas activity,
Yeah.
the zoo at night.
Right.
And they put up all these Christmas lights, and it's absolutely beautiful, and it's very fun. The kids have loved it. We've done it year after year.
Right.
And there have been times where you and I have asked ourselves, is it really worth it? It's the same basic lights year after year.
Right.
But it's a really enjoyable time together.
Yeah.
And it's active. We're out walking.
Right.
And we're not staring at a television or going our separate ways. And the kids do enjoy it.
Right.
And even though it's a family event, we have frequently involved another friend. And that has never interrupted the whole family dynamic at all.
No, and
in fact, it's been quite nice.
Yeah, and it's worked out pretty good, because one of the traditions we've done now, I think 3 times now. This past Halloween, we go to Mariah and I. We go to the Nightmare Factory, and it's this huge fundraiser that the deaf school puts on.
That was deaf, not death.
No, I guess it could be misinterpreted as that.
Be,
yes. And so, it's a big deal. In fact, Extreme Makeover even had it on one of their episodes, was making over this Nightmare Factory. So it's a big deal. And Mariah and I, have gone together because that's a tradition. We go to the Nightmare Factory, but we've always gone with one of her friends. Mm-hmm. And it's been an opportunity for me to get to know her friends, because there's a lot of times standing in line waiting to go through this Nightmare Factory. And so it's a good vehicle to have interaction with her peers, with her friends. And it's no big deal for her, for Dad to be tagging along on one of her activities, because it's a tradition.
Yes.
That's what we do. We go to the Nightmare Factory together.
We have also found ways, I think, to make traditions out of work-oriented things. I direct plays, and so during certain times of the year, I have to be away from home for large chunks of time, rather than just think, well, I'm just not going to see the kids, or I'm going to be away that length of time. I bring the kids to my play rehearsal, and they watch it. They both love it. They sometimes will ask, can I come to the rehearsal today?
Right.
And they watch the play evolve from the very beginning to the end. So they know all the actors. They frequently know some of the lines. If it's a musical, they usually know all the music.
Yes.
And it's really interesting to watch them watch us, and they see me interacting with other people in a way that's different, not just as the mom. And we find ways usually to try to help them help us. so that they feel they've contributed in some way. And obviously it's easier with the high schooler because she can do more stuff than it is with a 7-year-old. But I'll ask her to run little errands. Can you go do this? And it's a helpful thing.
Right.
And she enjoys being there and just watching and being in part. And the actors come and talk to her, and, well, both of them, and make them feel very important. Mm-hmm. And then you found ways to involve the girls in your work in roundabout ways. I think you have established a tradition of doing really creative video things with the girls.
Yeah.
Just randomly.
Right.
And once again, that's one of those things that it's not tied to an event or a calendar date. But when you say, hey, let's do this little video, this is something we do.
Right. Yeah.
And they know that.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be on an event like Halloween or Thanksgiving or Christmas. It can be, this is just something we do. Mm-hmm. Like those daddy-daughter dates. They're not on a specific time.
Right.
That's what we do. We get together, and so they anticipate that. That's an expectation.
And I think for me, baking with the girls and cooking meals would probably be what I do on a non-structured basis. But it is a tradition that I'll just say, hey, I want to teach you how to make this, or let's make this together, or wouldn't it be fun to do this now?
Yeah.
And they may not think at the moment that it would be fun, but it isn't as much as a fight as it is when I just want them to, I want you to come help me with dinner, when it's not, this is something that you and I are doing together.
Right.
When I couch it in that way, that is kind of an unspoken tradition that I've established with them, that I do this kind of thing with you.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, and, I think they create such positive memories that when you look back on it years and years later, I think it's going to become more and more precious, more and more valuable to you. And I just want to encourage people that might be listening to this that sometimes there's a temptation to sometimes jettison a tradition because it seems to be a lot of work or it's not very convenient. An example.
And it might even feel meaningless.
Well, yeah, right. One of the thoughts I had was, I'm in the store looking at the fake Christmas trees. And they're looking so real nowadays.
Don't you dare.
Well, I got to tell my story,
That's
though.
A tradition.
I got to tell my story. So I'm looking at these trees, and I'm like a techno geek anyway, and they've got the lights already on them, and some of them are programmable. And you can, do all kinds of things. And I'm thinking, wow, these trees look more and more real every year, and they've got these cool little lights on them, and they're programmable, and of course, then there's no mess.
That's what you're thinking of. No mess,
with the needles
no setup,
and all
no
that
tear
stuff.
down.
Exactly, yeah. Some of them are even like pre-decorated, but yeah, a tradition that we have is going out and finding a Christmas tree and picking it out.
Even if they bicker, it's tons of fun.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And we talk about it and think about it, and you get cold, and you come home and you have cider,
right?
And then we spend time decorating the tree together.
Yeah. Yeah, and
that, we turn Christmas music on.
Exactly, right. And so, yeah, and that is worth its weight in gold. Mm-hmm. And, some people might not be in a living situation where having a live Christmas tree is real practical. I don't know. And, of course, depending on where you live, where we live in the Northwest, they're real cheap. Christmas trees are real cheap. So we're fortunate in that. But even if they weren't, I think I might think it's still worth the cost because it's such a great tradition, and it will take on more and more meaning as the years pass.
We used to have traditions before we had kids that were just for you and me, and one of them was we bought any time that we would go to a place to visit, we would buy a Christmas ornament. Do you remember that?
I do.
And so when we decorate our Christmas tree, it doesn't mean anything to the kids, half the ornaments. They don't know where they came from.
Right.
But as I'm putting them up, I'm remembering times that we spent together and activities that we had and places that we went. It doesn't really matter, though, you were saying picking out a Christmas tree is a really great tradition. It doesn't really matter what the tradition is. It can be collecting pencils, it can be collecting pins, where every time the family goes somewhere, each of the people in the family pick out a pin.
Yeah, right.
That costs less than $1, and then you make a map and you put the pin on the places where you collected them from. And I think that really it's just a matter of thinking creatively,
right,
and thinking intentionally, and thinking that it doesn't have to be super meaningful. It doesn't have to be super expensive.
No.
It can be just part of your everyday life.
Exactly right. Our friends, the Dowells, on Thanksgiving, they break out a gazillion piece puzzle, and that's how they spend that Thanksgiving holidays, putting a puzzle together. It's no big deal. It's just a table and a bunch of pieces of cardboard with weird edges. And yet it's a very meaningful tradition, and their kids talk about that. And so, it doesn't have to be anything real spectacular, just something that, you do together as a family.
Every Sunday night we have popcorn and crackers and cheese and vegetables and fruit.
Right. And we watch America's Funniest Home Videos.
Yes, we do.
So, nothing real spectacular there, but it's a tradition. Yeah.
And actually, in today's world, where a lot of families don't even eat together anymore, it didn't used to be thought of as a tradition, but the dining room table, having meals at the dining room table together.
Right.
I think nowadays you could actually call that a tradition.
Yeah.
And our tradition is we eat supper together at the dining room table.
Right.
We don't always eat the other meals together because of scheduling.
And football games.
Well, yeah, football games. But most evenings, we're home together and we eat supper together at the table.
Right, yeah.
And we've made a very high priority of that.
Yeah.
We have a family tradition of, I read a Bible story to our daughter before she goes to sleep, and trying to establish a habit of every day you're reading your Bible, you're talking to God. We have a family tradition of praying together. Things that happen every day that we don't really think of as traditions.
Right.
We go to church together. Part of that is tradition. Part of it is because of a love for God, and we want to go somewhere where other people also love Him and talk about Him. But part of it, too, is just establishing a habit.
Right.
And a tradition. This is what we do.
Yeah, it's communicating what's important. Our relationship with God is important. And so we dedicate time every week to celebrating that. And that, and that's what you're saying in a lot of traditions. You're saying our time together is important. Mm-hmm. And we want to ensure that we do these things.
And I think if I were looking back at my childhood, I don't remember a lot of traditions per se. But I think there was one tradition that was absolutely ingrained in me, and that's a tradition of service, that we were made to help other people. That the point of us being here on this earth is we're here to be kind, to love, to help the helpless, to help the needy, to give voice to the voiceless. Yeah. To give assistance in any way that you can. And that it wasn't really ever talked about. My mom and dad never made a big deal about it. But I remember from the time that I was first conscious, watching them and seeing how they treated people. One time, a woman came to our door with some story. I don't even know what the story was, but I suspect it probably wasn't true. And my parents sympathized with her and had compassion on her and gave her food and water and then gave her some money, and she went on her way.
Yeah.
Many, many, many years later, I was living in Portland, and a man just showed up on my doorstep. Didn't know him. He obviously was not part of our neighborhood, and he was hungry, and he didn't have a coat on, and it was quite cold outside. And I just took one of our winter coats and made him a sandwich and gave him that and sent him on his way. And I didn't think about that and think, wow, I'm doing such a great thing. It was a tradition. This is what you do.
Yeah.
And those were real out of the norm kinds of acts of service. But the way my mom and dad lived their lives, they served people constantly.
Right.
And they found such pleasure out of it. And some people call it a work ethic, but it was way more than just a work ethic because it was always benefiting someone else. It wasn't just working to make money so you can be secure and stable and buy stuff.
Yeah.
It was, we're here to help. And that, I hope, we are passing on to our kids as a tradition as well.
Yeah, and, I think that, we could talk conversely about sometimes traditions might be a detriment. That could cause conflict in the family, or can be something that might stop another good thing from happening. Or, of course, I'm thinking of Tevye and the Fiddler on the Roof with the father saying, "It's tradition. The father decides who's going to get married,
yes.
Who's going to get married to who." As the culture was changing, that he was fighting against that. Mm-hmm. It wasn't allowing, true love to blossom, because that's not traditionally what you do. And sometimes that, can be a conflict within the family, that we're fighting over, this is our tradition, and some of the members of the family don't want to do this tradition, and therein is a fight. And so there's hardship in the family because of a tradition. And it's like, well, that's not making any sense. And I think if you approach the concept of traditions as we want them to serve us, something to do, to be good, they don't have to be complicated, nor do they have to be these golden calves, these sacred cows, as it were, that you don't change the tradition. Don't mess with it because it's sacred. They shouldn't be.
Yeah, and I think as long as you accept that traditions are valuable and that they kind of become placeholders in the family,
yeah,
that it's the act of having a tradition that's important. It isn't this particular tradition that is important.
Right.
And if it becomes controversial, if it becomes divisive, then yeah, it's not serving you or the purposes of a tradition anymore.
Right.
It becomes something that gets in the way of the goal
yeah.
of what a tradition is supposed to do.
Exactly.
So you dismiss that and you say, we are going to establish a new tradition. And perhaps this one you need to be more democratic and say,
right.
Who would like to contribute an idea? What would be a good tradition to take the place of this one that we're discarding?
Right, yeah.
Or maybe the tradition is good and we need to modify it because it's just not quite fitting the people that we are now,
right,
or the place where we are now. So it may not be radical surgery. It may just be, we need a few fixer-uppers.
Exactly, yeah. Well, we're heading into the holiday season, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. There's a lot of traditions that are surrounding those holidays. And for me, I look forward to that. I enjoy the traditions that our family has that are associated with those holidays. But, maybe a challenge is for me to think perhaps of some new traditions, something that we could establish. You mentioned with your family doing service. We don't really do that in our family, where we purposefully say we're going to perform an act of service as a family, gather a meal together and deliver it to the homeless, or anything necessarily along those lines. And so that's something that I would like to challenge myself with, just thinking about the importance of traditions, and then how valuable they can be to challenge our kids to acts of service, to showing compassion and love towards others, and just to be thinking, more about the meaning of the different holidays. Because the holidays, and of course certainly with Christmas, it's it can and does get very commercial, and so you kind of forget about all the good things that comes with Christmas when you're just thinking about the fact that I've got to find things on sale and I got to try to beat the crowd and all the negative things that happen around the holidays during the shopping time. So that's a challenge that I would like to take up and consider. Well, what can I do to communicate the real positive aspects of the holidays?
And maybe that's the best thing to think about with traditions, asking yourself, okay, does this tradition serve the overall philosophy, the overall goals that I have for my family? Are we achieving what I really want us to achieve?
Yeah.
Or have we just kind of fallen into a tradition that appears to be something good, but is either empty and meaningless, doesn't really accomplish anything, or even sometimes it controverts our intention and goal, where we want our family to be going and the value systems that we're trying to promote.
Right.
So for me, I think the thing that I challenge myself with regularly, and you talk about the holidays and traditions, is not to place unrealistic expectations on those traditions, because we're the same people going into the tradition and participating in the tradition as we were before and after, which means that we have problems and all things will not be rosy, and everybody's not going to do what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it, how they're supposed to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And things are going to get broken that aren't supposed to be, and people are going to be irresponsible, and things fall apart.
Yes.
And that if you are using the tradition to bind your family together, to create meaningful memories, then it doesn't matter. You just let it happen, and you participate, and you're there in that moment. That's hard for me, because I have a plan how that moment should be worked out.
Yeah.
And
right.
how it should be played out. And if it goes differently, it's very frustrating. That's my tradition.
Yes, right. That's not the way it's supposed to happen.
So allowing flexibility and freedom and enjoying the people, because that's the tradition is just a vehicle,
right,
for enjoying and bonding with and deepening your relationships,
right,
with the people around you.
Yeah.